everybody, welcome back to Meals with Marcia. Today I want to share a canning recipe with you, and it is called squash pickles. I'm excited to show you this, so let's get started. Now, I want to say this, when you're canning and when you're doing stuff like this from the garden, it is going to be lengthy and it's got several steps to it. So I know some people don't like to watch long videos. I'm going to try to condense this down as short as I can. But like I said, when you're doing things from start to finish from the garden and you're canning, it's just really hard to do a 5-minute video. So, okay, first thing you need is some squash. Now, Dad has grown, we call this the crook neck squash, which is normally what we have all the time, and then he has the straight squash. And this right here slices up a lot easier, but they're both really good, about the same taste. The texture's just a little bit different, but either one is great for this, and I have both in this recipe. Now, you need 1 gallon or 4 quarts of sliced up squash, and I just took my knife and just cut them into little discs, just like this, okay? So we're gonna put this in here. I'm gonna put part of it. I'm gonna layer this part, half onions and then half squash. And then you're going to need 5 to 6 medium onions or 2 large onions. And I had 2 large, and I wanted to show you, I just cleaned them up, cut them in half, and then I sliced them this way into little half moons. Whoop. If I can get it to come off, just like so, okay? So we're gonna put part of that in there. Now, like I said, this takes some time and you have to soak this for a while. So, like I said, this is the first step. All right, and then you're going to put salt over this, and this is 1/4 cup of salt. I'm going to do a little salt in here. And then you're going to do, I guess I need to do half of it, not that. And then you're going to put ice on it. Part of your ice on it. Okay. And then you're going to do the rest of your squash. Make sure they're all pulled apart. The rest of your onions. Okay. Ooh, those onions are strong. They're Vidalias, that's what I bought, but you can use any kind of onion you want. Yellow onion, white onion. I don't know, purple onion might give it a pretty color, but I've never done a purple onion. It's usually Vidalias is what I use. All right, and you're going to do the rest of the salt. Sprinkle that on there. I think I need a little bit more salt. Put a little bit more on there. At least 1/4 cup, maybe 1/3 cup. All right, and then you're going to put the rest of the ice on there. All right, now this has to sit, guys, for 3 hours, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cover it with a cloth, and I'm gonna let it sit for 3 hours, and then after that's over, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna show you the next step, okay? It'll be just a little while. Hey everybody, welcome back. Okay, I have got my squash and my onions, and I put my ice and my salt on it, and it's been sitting here for about 3 hours. Now, we're going to take care of that in just a moment, but I want to talk to you about my jars and my lids and my rims, okay? I put 15 jars on this pan because I'm not sure how many I need. I'm probably going to only need 9 or 10, but I just always do extra just in case, because the way I always do my pickles, my squash pickles, is the open kettle method. What the open kettle method is you put your jars in the oven and at 175 degrees, and you have them hot. You put all your flats and your rims in a pot, and you simmer them on the stove. Now I have some wide mouth, and I've got the lids, the rims and flats for those. And then I have regular mouth, and I've got rims and flat for those. You need to make sure that you have enough rims and flats for as many jars as you have that you're going to put in the oven. Now, I'm going to put this in the oven at 275 and let them be getting hot while we're prepping this. And I'm going to put this on the stove about medium-high heat because I want it to simmer. I don't want it to just like boil really hot, but I want it to simmer. So give me just 1 second, and I'm going to do that real quick, and then we'll come back and we're going to get our squash ready. Carefully put these in the oven. I got those in my oven. They're getting hot. Like I said, I got my lids and my rims on the stove. So we got to get that ready. Like I said, that's the open kettle method. Now, this is my ice and my salt. I'm going to pull this ice off the top. Just put it in this bowl. There's going to be some still there. And like I said, this has been soaking with salt and ice for 3 hours. I'm trying to get all my onions out. I don't want to lose my onions. I'm trying to get my pieces of ice out. This is going to help them to crisp up. This is going to keep them from being soggy when we cook them. I've been making squash pickles for, oh my gosh, probably 15 or 20 years now. My dad found this recipe from a guy, and he brought it to me, and he's like, Marcia, I think we need to try these. I think they'll be good. And that one year, that first year that we found the recipe, I'm telling you, Dad wore me out with it because he literally brought me probably 5-gallon buckets full of squash. I had so many squash. I'm trying to pick some of this ice out. We gotta have that out. And remember, I did half of my onions and squash, and then I did salt and ice, and then I did the other half on top, so they'll all get crispy. But I just like to pick some of this ice out. And a lot of it's melted, as you can see. So we'll just discard that. Okay, let's see. Here's a couple more pieces of ice. All right. All right. Let me make sure these are rinsed out one more time. Get the juice, as much of that water off of it as you can. You know, you don't get all of it, and that's okay, because you're going to transfer this to a different bowl. But anyway, that's the salty ice water, and we'll just throw that in the trash and discard that here in a little bit. Clean up my mess. Now, I'm going to turn the video off. I'm going to go over here to my stove, and I'm going to set up over there, and we're going to show you how we get this ready and how we can it, okay? I'll be back in just a few minutes. Hey everybody, welcome back. Okay, now I'm over here at my stove, and I've got my squash and my onions, and I'm going to get the brine ready for us to get it on the stove so we can start cooking this, okay? All right, I'm going to turn my eye on high, and I'm going to add 3 cups of white vinegar. And I'm going to add 5 cups of granulated sugar. These are like sweet pickles, so just to let you know, if you don't like sweet, this may not be the one for you. But these are delicious to eat like on a sandwich. I'm going to go ahead and stir that sugar up so it won't burn on the bottom. And then we got to add our spices. Now we need 1.5 teaspoons of celery seed. I'm going to take that off. Oop, there's my celery seed, I think. Yeah. Well, it hadn't been opened. There we go. All right, 1.5 teaspoons of celery seed. That's 1 teaspoon right there. And then a half. Okay. Then 1.5 teaspoons of mustard seed. You can get these in your spice aisle at your grocery store. Yep, not gonna have enough. Well, I'm gonna get rid of that little bit in there. And just a little bit more. Well, I'm making a mess here. Now, 1.5 teaspoons of mustard seed. That's yellow mustard seed. And then 1 teaspoon of turmeric, however you say it. They say there's a lot of health benefits to turmeric, but this is for the color. I believe we use this. Let me get me a little knife. I think this is clogged up a little bit. I really believe turmeric is for color, is why we add this, but you know, it's really good for inflammation and stuff in your joints. So it's not gonna hurt. It's not gonna hurt you. All right, so let's get all this put back together here. All right, now, so I'm just gonna stir this and let all this dissolve and get everything up together in it. Now this has to come to almost a boil, okay? Once we get it going really good and it starts kind of steaming a little bit like it's about to boil, we're gonna add our squash and onions. Now this is where it takes a little bit of time. I talked about when you're canning, it's really hard to do like a 5-minute video because there's a lot of steps that you have to do in order to get it where you want it to go. Now remember, we have our jars in the oven at 275. I have my lids and my rims on the stove, and they're coming to a simmer. Got to get those going. And I can't walk away from this, guys, because this has sugar. And if you're doing anything on high like this on the stove, you need to always stir continually because that sugar will scorch and it's going to ruin the whole batch. Now, with that being said, when you're using your spoon, make sure that you're touching the bottom of that pan and you're stirring, not just stirring at the surface, but to stir at the bottom of the pan. I always use a much larger pan than I need so I can stir easy and I can handle the stuff that's going to be put in here easy. That's the thing. That's what you got to do. So we're going to let this go for a few more minutes. It's probably going to take, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes to get this heated up. And when I do, I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how we add the squash and how we bring it up to a boil, okay? Well, I think I'm going to wait just a minute. Maybe this is going to heat up quicker than I thought. Yeah, you see that steam coming off? That's ready for us to add our squash. So I'm going to go do that. And then I'll come back in a minute. All right, so I just take my hands and I just do this because you want to try to get that, the liquid, if you have any excess liquid left from that water, you want that off. So you just drop them down in there. This is some good looking squash Dad's grown this year. There's a piece of ice. I don't want to put that in there. Just move that off to the side. I mean, it's okay if you do. It's going to melt in there, but we'll get our squash in here. I'm using my hands today. They're my best tools that God gave me. And they're clean. I've washed them. Let's see. I may be able to just take my hands and I'm just trying not to get all that juice, that leftover juice in there. Just to get all the onions and all the squash that you can get. All right, there's that. I'm gonna set that aside. Dry my hand off just a little bit. Get this ice out of the way. And now we're going to start stirring this, okay? The sugar's dissolved. Now this has got to come up to a really hard boil, okay? I'm just going to continue to stir until this comes to a boil, and it's going to soften those squash. They'll turn a little bit. That turmeric's going to make them a pretty yellow color, even more than what they are. But y'all, this is good eating right here. Get you a bowl of pinto beans and have you some squash pickles on the side, or get you a good sandwich, a turkey sandwich or ham sandwich, and some chips, and have you some squash pickles on the side. I'm telling you, this is a great, great recipe. I also use this same brine when I do my pepper relish, and I have a video already on my YouTube channel of the pepper relish. You can watch it if you want. I'm going to time this. I'm going to turn the video off, and I'm going to time this, guys, and see how long it takes for it to come to a boil and get ready. And then when it does, I'm going to come back, and I'm going to show you guys how we put it in the jars and seal it and all that, okay? I'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome back. All right, we are to a boil here. Now, we're starting to boil good, but I want this to be a rolling boil. And a rolling boil is where it boils when you continue to stir. Right now, it boils, and then when I start stirring, it quits. So it's not quite there. It's been about 8 minutes, okay? So you might as well just say about 10 minutes it's going to take to get these going. So they're going, they're boiling. They're almost there. But I got to get them to a rolling boil, so just a couple more minutes. They're already starting to turn colors a little bit. You can tell the difference between the different types of squash that I use this time. You know, in the beginning of the video, I had the straight neck squash, and I had the curved or crooked neck squash. The straight neck squash is more yellow. It's a brighter yellow color. And the other ones are a lighter yellow, but they both have a good taste. Texture is just a little different, but we soaked them in the salt and ice, so they should be good and crisp. All right, let's see what we got. We're getting close. It's boiling. Yeah, she's boiling. It's a rolling boil. All right, so that's at a rolling boil. I'm going to turn this off, okay? And then I'm going to take my jars out of the oven carefully. Got my lids over here on the stove. And my rims, they're hot. Let's get this out. You have to be real careful because this is hot, guys. And I have a vent up over my head, and I have that vent closed. I always close my vent because I don't want the cold air to hit and bust my jars. All right, so I'm going to pull this over here off of the heat because it's going really good. It smells delish. It always fogs my glasses up. All right, so now I'm going to fill my jars. I have my little wide mouth ladle, funnel, I guess I should say. This is my Grandma Stillman's. My Aunt Virgie gave it to me. I cherish it always. I always tell that in my videos. My kids get tired of me saying it, but I do. I love that. I'm going to be using my knife to push those down. You got to get some of that liquid in there too. You want some liquid. And then you want your onions and squash. Okay. All right. Go to the next one. It's hot stuff, guys. Don't be really careful and don't get too carried away. You don't want to burn yourself. Just make sure you're being careful with all the liquid and everything, because you don't want to burn yourself. But you're going to put those in just like that. Let me see here. Probably need a little bit more juice in that one. A little more juice. And you're going to fill them to about right there. You don't want to come all the way up. You want to come to that bottom part of that rim right there. Okay? So let me put the lids on these. I'm going to do a few of them, and I'm going to show you how we do it. Then I'm going to finish them, and I'm going to come back and show you how we get them ready to seal. Okay? Now, you're going to have a towel. And you're going to fold it in half, okay? Because you're going to have to pick this jar up. I might have to open it up a little bit more. These are fat jars. I got wide mouths. Okay? And you're going to take your hand and you're going to screw that on as tight as you possibly can with your hand. Then we're going to put it on the towel upside down, inverted, just like this. Now remember, this is the open kettle method that I always do. A lot of people like to water bath theirs after because they worry, but this is how I've always done my pickles. This is how I do my everything, my tomatoes, everything, open kettle method. It's my favorite way. And you're going to tighten that as hard as you can, and we're going to turn it upside down. All right, so I'm going to finish filling these, put the lids on, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how we set them out to cool and all that stuff, and I'll be right back, okay? Hey everybody, welcome back. Okay, I got all my jars filled. I ended up getting 9 pints out of that. I thought I would get 8 or 9, but I always do extra just for good measure because you have to have those jars, those lids and rims hot in case you have more. So I always do extra. But anyway, I can always cool those down and use them at a later date. Now, I have all these upside down. They've been here about 10 minutes. And now we're going to flip them back over. This is a hot job. I'm going to try to use my towel so I don't burn myself. We're going to flip these back over just like this. They're hot. Hot, baby, hot. See if I can get that on. Now, what's going to happen when these the liquid starts cooling down, the jars start cooling down, that's going to create a vacuum, and it's going to cause those lids to seal. They'll pop and they'll seal, and you're good. Now, a lot of people like to go further with this. They don't like to not water bath their stuff like this, but I do not water bath. I always use this open kettle method that we talked about. I have been doing this for over 20 years, and it's been very safe for me. Now, if you don't feel safe with that, you could always put these down in a water bath and boil them for 10 minutes. And, you know, if you feel better about it. But like I said, this is how I've always done my squash pickles. This is how I do my tomatoes. And it's a foolproof way. Now, the next thing I always do is I always cover them with a cloth. I don't know the reason behind this. I say this in all my videos. My mom always did this and my mama always did this. So once you get everything ready, you get them in your jars, they're ready to start cooling, then you're going to just put a towel over them just like that. And I think it's just so the cold air don't hit them, to be honest, which remember I told you I closed my vent over here so the cold air couldn't get on those hot jars. I've never had a jar to bust when I'm doing the open kettle method. One time I had a jar to bust on me in the canner when I was doing green beans. That's over 20 something years that I've been canning. I've had one jar bust. So, you know, you don't have to be afraid. Just use caution. Don't let any cold air hit it. So anyway, that is start to finish, guys, how to make squash pickles. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Meals with Marcia, and don't forget that everything you're going to need and how to make this is going to be in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you later. God bless, and bye-bye.